Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Thursday, April 4th, 2013. I'm Darko. Alright, I'm going to start off with the Middle East news, and I'm going to cover everything: eugenics, police state, probably 4, maybe 5 videos. So links will be posted in YouTube's video description if you're new to GGN. And I'm ready. Syria conflict drawing hundreds of jihadists from Europe, says report. Most of you are aware of this, but I'll tie into this first video. Up to 600 people from 14 European countries have taken part in fighting since 2011, says King's College study. Says here that up to 600 individuals from 14 countries, including the UK, Austria, Spain, Sweden, and Germany, have taken part in the conflict since it began in 2011. Said the largest contingent the study found came from the UK. This, of course, is where we're going to end up in the 4th or 5th video. Here, we've got the whole world in our hands. This is from the Sun, basically a UK source, most popular UK destinations for immigrants. Says the most popular destination for Iraqis to Britain is Hull. It says London remains a magnet, but smaller cities and towns have also welcomed visitors from all 4 corners of the world. For example, it says here, I'm not going to try because people are going to correct me here. Herefordshire is a huge draw to Bulgarians, while Zimbabweans head to Leicester, Latvians, Cam, Slovaks. So the melting pot culture of bigger cities attracts a variety of nationalities. Birmingham is popular with Chinese, Afghanis, Bangladeshis. So there's a little map. Link will be posted probably in the last video. But the point is we've covered this from a video from Spiegel about Germany, and then there was about the UK, the same thing about, we're concerned about these terrorists that we're radicalizing and that we're funding to overthrow governments. See, we're using them for our own political, really, it's economical reasons, for energy, and they write out all these policies and they overthrow sovereign governments with these terrorists. But now they're worried that they're going to come back and come back to their homeland in Germany and Europe and the UK and the US, and they're going to start carrying out terrorist activities against those governments that were funding them and backing them. You have to make that distinction, because that's what's happening. 2 Canadians who joined the Algeria attack are identified. Now remember, we had the Algeria attack right before Mali. The whole Mali thing was kicking off, France recolonization of Africa for the resources. You had the Algeria refinery attack, gas plant, and who was at the head of it? Whoa, it just happens to be a CIA clandestine who came from Afghanistan. So that, along with the Canadians, this was a Western basically operation, and all the hostages were killed by the Algerian military. So left 37 hostages dead. But it goes on here and it says the path that led the friends, both in their 20s, from the city to the deaths of the attack remains unclear, but their actions added credibility to earlier warnings from Canada's security officials and politicians about political radicalization of some of the country's young people. This is a challenge that has happened in many parts of the West, the US, UK, Sweden, and elsewhere. Says it's obviously something that deeply concerned us. Well, you should have thought about that before you started arming terrorists and being allied with people like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and all those countries that basically radicalize mostly Sunni Wahhabis Muslims to go out and blow whatever, Christians, other Muslims up. But this is how you know that this is a Zionist strategy and that you are living in a Zionist-occupied government, because they do this divide and conquer crap all the time while they're sitting in the middle, basically getting what they want. Syrian rebels capture military air defense base in southern province. And it says here in the country's south on Wednesday after heavy fighting. They said it's in the latest advance by opposition fighters, i.e. terrorists, near the strategic border area with Jordan. So the terrorists have been trying to fulfill the Brookings Institute for Policy and regime change in Syria to bring Assad down, and they've done it with the help of an influx of foreign-funded weapons and training by the CIA in Jordan. We all know this. Their aim is to secure a corridor from the Jordanian border to Damascus in preparation for an eventual assault on the capital, which they've tried before, but they haven't succeeded. Jordan condemned for backing anti-Syria terrorists. Says here, Washington and its allies say they are opposed to further militarization of the situation in Syria, but numerous reports have emerged confirming that the West and its allies are funding and arming militants in the crisis-hit country. So Says here that Syrian media have sharply criticized Jordan for hosting training camps for foreign-backed militants seeking to topple the government of Syrian President Assad. Officials from the U.S. and other Western Arab countries say the kingdom has been facilitating arms shipments and hosting training camps for the militants since October of 2012. The Syrian government says the chaos is being orchestrated from outside the country, and there are reports that a very large number of militants are foreign nationals. Damascus says the West and its regional allies, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, are supporting the militants. Syria says inevitable death to anyone who approaches the capital. A Syrian military source stressed on Wednesday that Damascus will remain safe. Quote, Damascus is safe and will remain safe. There is no reason for panic as state guards are deployed in their positions and have capabilities, courage, and skills enough to defeat terrorists and terrorism. We repeatedly used every possible means to warn terrorist groups that approaching Damascus will lead to their death and their leaders. Says noting that infiltration attempts are carried out across several axes where all, if not most, of the infiltrators are often killed while the rest flee away. Pretty strong statement here. It says a source pointed out that all formations of the Syrian army are ready to defend Damascus, whose land has not and will not be defiled by terrorists. Then Assad says Erdogan of Turkey hasn't said a single word of truth since the crisis began. He says Erdogan hasn't said a single word of truth since the beginning of the crisis, he said in remarks to Turkish TV station. Said he also praised the scholar, saying that he was an essential figure in thwarting the plot aiming to inflict a sectarian strife in Syria, the Sheikh Mohammed. Interesting, I think this is the Sunni cleric that was blown up by these Sunni terrorists, these foreigners. This guy was probably trying to find peace. So for that, they assassinated Dr. Bouti. 2 days ago, they assassinated another cleric in Aleppo, and they assassinated another number of scholars before. So like the other articles that you saw from McClatchy about, the rebel-held areas, electricity's back on, and bread lines are open again. Well, this is, of course, building up the people that destroyed all those things, which is these foreigners mostly. In rebel-held Syria, some schools try to carry on. They're trying to carry on. Well, they've been trying to carry on. Unfortunately, these a-holes are blowing up universities and soaking fear in the teachers and the students to be able to attend classes regularly. As their mortar shells are flying in, and not just colleges, but also grade schools and that. So they're talking about liberation. But heinous bomb attack on Syrian university while students sat exams, which killed at least 87 people, condemned by UN as war crime. So we know who this was, and it was the rebels. So, and this was what? This was January 16th of 2013. This is from March 28th, so basically almost April. Syrian shelling kills 12 students at Damascus University. Now, say Syrian shelling, it makes it sound like it's the government, but it's mortar shells, and we know that means it's the rebels. So, something that they have to say, kind of as a liability, a disclaimer. The main rebel terrorist fighting group denied responsibility, asserting it would never target a school filled with students. So, well, they already have, so you know that they'll do it. Sexual jihad. Fatwa urges temporary marriages for Syrian rebels from March 29th. Reports about a fatwa urging young girls to travel to Syria to provide sexual services for jihadist rebels are causing a stir in Tunisia, while also drawing attention to the Islamic concept little known in the West and controversial among Muslims themselves, of temporary marriage. Girls as young as 14 are counted as eligible for the sexual jihad, and around a dozen young Tunisians are believed to have taken up the call. So, these poor people, it's all around the world where you have this either A or B, either way, you're going to lose. So I'm talking about these agendas. So in Tunisia, you just had that girl that was supposedly getting death threats, or I don't know what she was doing, but basically the smoking feminists and stuff posed naked on a website. And just for modern Muslims, that's not cool. Or most modern religious people. But whatever, for whatever it's worth, they have radicals there, and she was opposing the radicals going to the complete other side where they want her to be. And then you have on this other side sexual jihad, which is, again, these extremists that are doing this. So if you're a moderate Muslim, then, you're going to be tied in with these people. And that sucks. But that just goes to show you that they're there for the long haul. Displaced and starving, Syrians are forced to scrounge for herbs to survive. So it says here that they're eating and drinking whatever they can forage, even collecting stagnant rainwater to drink and wash in. Then we have Syrian rebels near chemical weapons cache. So the fall of Safira puts rebels near arms-making hub. The rebel fighters seized the town of al-Safira overnight, an anonymous suburb of Aleppo, like many others that are constantly changing hands back and forth as the rebels or terrorists and government fight over Aleppo. This could be a game changer in a number of ways, not the least of which is that the Syrian rebel factions have shown a willingness to use their crude chemical weapons in the civil war and might do a lot more damage with real modern chemical weapons. The big question is whether this will precipitate a U.S. military intervention against the rebels who they have been openly backing for quite some time. So far, Obama and them are saying no. It's going to let the carnage continue. And that's part of the Brookings Institute report, so they're just going right along the narrative. Netanyahu hails historic day as Israel starts pumping gas from major offshore refine. It says 4 years after discovery, flow from the Tamar field marks start of Israel's transformation to energy independence and eventual natural gas explorer, which will go through probably, Syria and on to another Zionist-occupied country, Turkey, which is why they're all helping, because they know it's coming. Thousands of Palestinian detainees go on hunger strike. Prisoners protest death of this person. Palestinians' UN envoy charges Israeli negligence for the cause of his death. This was what started the whole, basically, hunger strike. The Palestinian shepherd 80 beaten unconscious near a settlement. Police have gathered evidence in an effort to reveal who was responsible. So it says there basically the Israeli police assaulted an 80-year-old Palestinian who was severely beaten near the Northwest Bank Jewish settlement. He said he was beaten all over his body with sticks and suffered multiple fractures and lost consciousness. As with any other strategy, Israel says it will not let Gaza rockets continue. They will not sit back while Palestinian militants attack the south of the country on Wednesday. That's why they have controlled opposition, Hamas, right? To do what? To throw off some rockets. Israeli tanks fire into Syria after cross-border mortar strike. Mortar hits empty field. We already know probably who it was, but it doesn't really matter. Israeli tanks fired multiple shells into Syria today with no indication so far for what, if anything, was actually hit in the strikes, if anybody was. Israeli officials say they were in response to a mortar exploding in Israeli-occupied Golan. Again, this is a good chance, being that it's a mortar that it was actually from the rebels inside Israeli territory and shooting it at Syria. Remember, we just covered an article where some of these jihadists or terrorists were being treated and sent to Israeli hospitals, so you know that they have Assad up in there heading this invasion. 100 American Jewish leaders urge Netanyahu to show readiness for painful territorial sacrifices. Pretty interesting. But it goes on and says that lauding the Prime Minister's leadership on Turkey, the Israeli Policy Forum's letter urges collaboration with John Kerry and concrete confidence-building measures with Palestinians to work closely with Kerry to basically show Israel's readiness to make painful territorial sacrifices for the sake of peace, which I'd be very shocked if I saw this happen in my lifetime. Being that, according to surveys and polls, most of the Israeli youth don't support a two-state solution and support a hardline, basically like a dictator. After Benghazi, Marines approved for crisis response force, so this is all the result of regime change, what happened, and funding terrorists killed by the same terrorists. The Pentagon has approved a Marine Crisis Response Force for North Africa with air transport and combat capabilities that DoD said response to criticism the military was unable to get to any enforcers. Actually, the CIA called for help and they didn't get it. So British aid is helping because they wanted something like that to happen so they can bring in a strike force of Marines so they can go in and help out France and Mali and other places. British aid is helping fund re-election campaign of Benazir Bhutto's family in Pakistan. They're giving 300 million pounds of taxpayers' money to a controversial program of cash handouts in Pakistan, which is accused of bankrolling the re-election campaign of Benazir Bhutto's former family or part. Then 17 Caucasus cities seek annexation to Iran, says a lawmaker. They said 17 cities across the Caucasus are interested in their cities getting annexed to the Islamic Republic of Iran. They include the Azeri capital of Baku, were separated from Iran under the rule of the Qajar dynasty. So people in the comment board said, I agree with them, they have to be careful because this is what happened with Germany too, because people don't know history and stuff. So, people at the West can use it, they can use this as a reason to strike Iran, just that alone. And 5.9 magnitude quake hits Afghanistan and Pakistan, along with 53 killed in a Taliban attack. Thank you.